Hey, welcome to Outsmart Your Guitar. Glad you could join us. Today, this is lesson 4 in beginning guitar. You'll be learning 5 essential rhythm patterns that are used a lot in popular music. They also act as templates so that you can use them as a starting place when you're learning songs by other people to modify so that it matches the rhythms of the songs you're trying to learn. These are also templates for you to use when you're writing your own music that you can modify to match the feel and the rhythm that you're trying to accomplish with what you're writing. So whether playing other people's music or writing your own, these 5 rhythm patterns are the great starting place that helps you accomplish learning those songs or writing those songs. You'll also be learning other essential things that you need to know too. So let's just get right to it. In order to read the charts that you're going to be looking at, the diagrams, I need to have you understand how to read them. Now, while I am an advocate of learning to read notation, it's not something I demand of students. However, what I do want you to do is learn note values. We've already done a little bit of that previously with quarter notes, which you'll see right down here is a quarter note. And that equals 1 beat. Now over here, you'll see an eighth note. That's differentiated by that little wavy line, which is called a tail or a flag. And that shows you the difference. All right? So look at this diagram and kind of burn it into your brain a little bit, because we're going to keep going a little bit more on this stuff, all right? Oftentimes in music, eighth notes are played one right after the other. Now, instead of writing them out like this, with the flags flailing away in the wind, we write them out like this. And you see there's a solid black line there joining the 2 notes together. That's called a beam. A single beam between 2 notes indicates that they're both eighth notes. So here you're seeing the same 2 eighth notes written out a little cleaner. Now, if there were 4 eighth notes in a row, you'd still have that beam joining all 4 of them together, just that single beam. You just play them one right after the other. And we'll get into that too. So burn this into your brain, and then we'll keep moving forward. Now this diagram is purely just to drive home a point. There's 3 ways to express 1 beat. Here you have 2 eighth notes individually. Here you have 2 eighth notes joined with the beam, still the same as that. And then 2 eighth notes, they all equal 1 quarter note, because just like in fractions, 1/8 plus 1/8 equals 2 eighths, right? Divided by 2, it's 1 quarter, right? Because they're 2 eighth notes in a quarter note, time-wise. So 1 beat, 1 beat, 1 beat. In the eighth notes, you're breaking the beat down into 2 halves. Here, it's 1 solid thing. All right? We'll get into that more too. So burn this into your brain and get it committed to memory. One last thing. As you've been playing so far, you've been playing all downstrokes. Well, there's actually a symbol to indicate downstrokes, and that's right here. It looks like a staple, right? Well, that's a downstroke. Now, there's another stroke called an upstroke, which you've actually already been doing. Every time you play a downstroke and you reset for the next downstroke, you've just done an upstroke. Well, an upstroke, when we actually play it, is indicated by the V. These are essential things for you to know because they will help you moving forward to understand how to play particular rhythm patterns that we're going to be going over in just a moment. So burn this into your brain as well. All right? let's do just a wee bit of review here to also establish, using the new symbology here with the downstrokes, and you'll notice above the downstrokes, the count, the actual count. So you're just going to play 1, 2, 3, 4 to D, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now back to A, 1, 2, 3, 4 to E, 1, 2, 3, 4, and back to A. 2, 3, 4. All right, now you'll notice in the third measure, there's a little thing that looks a little like a percent symbol. That is actually a symbol to indicate play what you did in the last measure. Now, here it references the strum pattern, not the chord. All right? So you're just playing the strum pattern through all 4 measures. So pause the video and practice this for a minute, getting used to counting, chord changes, and reading the downstroke symbol. And when you're ready to continue, press play. In this example, we have 3 quarter notes, and now we're introducing 2 eighth notes in the 4th beat. Now remember, I mentioned that when you're playing your quarter notes, you notice that upstroke I'm doing there? 1, 2, 3, right? It's actually 1 and 2 and 3 and. That's the idea of what's going on. So you're actually making the motion of an eighth note element. You're just not playing the strings. On the 4th beat, you will be playing the strings and employing that upstroke and using it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. That's why this has to be very steady, and we'll get into that in just a moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Now, if you want to help yourself, you can do this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and so on, right? So you can actually help yourself by doing that. Then you'll get to the place where you can just count 1, 2, 3, 4, and, right? Because it'll be somewhat natural, an assumption that that upstroke is the and. And you notice how it's smooth and steady there. All right? So now, pause the video. Practice this at a tempo that you can play it mostly smooth and flowing. Remember, you got to get to, on that upstroke, when the next downstroke happens, in time, you got to be on the next chord. So this is going to challenge you also to get your chord changes happening a little bit quicker now. But like I said, play it at a tempo where you can make the changes fairly smoothly between chords. This isn't about speed, it's about quality of execution. You're going to hear me use that term a lot. Quality of execution is more important than being able to play it fast. Because if you get that quality of execution, which is essentially technique, down properly, speeding it up will actually be a lot easier because you understand how it's supposed to feel. All right? Okay, so again, pause, practice this for a little while, and then press play when you're ready to continue. I mentioned a moment ago playing steady. I want to focus on that here for this segment because I want to introduce you to what I call the steady state principle. The steady state principle is based on the down and up motion of your strumming hand. All right? So basically, for example, you notice that I'm keeping this going at all times. 1 and 2 and ghosting 3. I'll get into ghosting in a moment. Coming back in on the and of 3 and 4 and that's the strum pattern. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's the way it is on the D and on the C as well. I started with the G, in case you're wondering. Okay, and that's the essence of steady state. You're using the down and up motion to help you play smooth and flowing. Now, you can apply this in other ways because basically what you're doing is you're parsing the beat into even bits. Here it's 1 and 2 and. Well, we could do it with 16ths too. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and It's the same idea, steady state, right? Down, up, down, up, down, up. And we can use all downstrokes if we want as well. Because you'll notice steady state. And that's the idea. I can show you even with the bow diddly strum pattern, the rhythm. I know I'm hitting it right where it's supposed to be because I'm following the steady state principle. I could play it without doing all of that. And I'm relatively confident because I've been playing so long that I'm hitting these things right where they're supposed to be. However, I don't want to have a relative idea. I want to have a more accurate and so specific and absolute idea. And that's what steady state does for me, particularly on things like the bow diddly rhythm. This motion ensures that if I know where in the midst of this those things are hit, I'll hit them right every time. No question. And this applies across the board. Virtually all rhythms that you will learn to play on the guitar rely on the steady state principle. They will help you accomplish, the steady state principle will help you accomplish being able to play any given rhythm, almost without exception. So I thought I'd bring that up because we're going to talk about the steady state principle throughout your learning process to help you understand that you've got to apply this and you will get it right every time when you do. Plus, understanding note values, quarters, eighths, and then eventually sixteenths, you will have no problem understanding exactly how to count things out and where you're supposed to play and when. All right? So, let's get on with the rest of the lesson. Remember I mentioned ghost stroke? Well, now we're going to talk about ghost strokes. You see the red V's on the and of 1 and the and of 3? That is now something you do normally when you're getting ready to play the second beat, but now I'm bringing it to your attention so that you can be aware of it, because moving forward we're going to include these designations. Okay, so we're starting with an A, right? 1 and. Now the and of 1, that upstroke, is ghosted, because what I mean by that is you're making the motion, but you're not touching the strings, and you're letting the strings ring out. 1 and 2 and 3 and is ghosted for and. So the and of 1 and the and of 3 are ghosted, meaning you make the stroke because you're staying in the steady state principle, and you just don't hit the strings, and you let them ring out from the downstroke. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 back to the beginning. 1 and 2 and 3 and so forth. Right? Pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, pause the video, practice this particular pattern, and take note of the ghosting feature in the upstroke. All right? Then, when you're ready to move forward, you know what to do. All right, now we're going to group all the eighth notes together in succession. So you see the beam across 4 notes, all those are eighth notes, and you can see above we have the count and the down and upstroke showing you. Now, the and of 1 and the and of 2 are ghosted. So here's what you're going for. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and so forth, right? Just keep going round and round. And that's the idea there. Ghosting notes helps to create the atmosphere and the feel that you're going for. All right? So practice this for a couple of minutes. And then when you're ready to move forward, press play. All right, this is going to challenge you a little bit because it's the same strum pattern, but you'll notice we're changing chords a whole lot more. All right, so here's what you're going for. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Just keep going. Round and round she goes. And get used to making these chord changes a little quicker now, because this is more in line with what you may encounter in the real world. And remember, keep that steady state going and play at a tempo where you can more or less manage all the chord changes. It's not about speed, it's about quality of execution, right? Okay, and when you've done that for a few minutes, go ahead and restart the video. All right, here we go. We're going to be busy. You're going to be playing down and up strokes all the way through. So this is what you're going to be going for. And this is where the steady state really comes into play heavily. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2. And you just keep going. Now, This is where a lot of people start speeding up, is when they're playing stuff like this. So you really want to be very careful in how you go about this, and really pay attention and try to keep as steady a rhythm as possible. All right? When you're ready to continue, you know what to do. All right, one last exercise for you, and it's a learning thing as well. We're going to focus on the D string now, the fourth string. Now, normally you would play through the E and the A string and then include the D string. Well, I'm just going to do the D string today, but don't neglect doing the E and the A string as review and reinforcement on memorization. So, thumb back on the spine. You know your shift point is the 1st, 5th, and 9th fret up, 9th, 5th, and 1st fret on the way back down. You can pivot, and remember, you leave your fingers planted as best you're able until the next note. Then you can lift them up, but don't flail. Just lift them a tiny bit. Watch my hand. Here we go. D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D. Now we're going to do the flats, descending. D, D flat, C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E, D, B, E flat, D. There we go. All right? So I want you to practice. Again, play the E, play the A strings, then play the D string up to the 12th fret and back. Sharps on the way up, flats on the way down. And do this to reinforce and memorize the E and the A strings. You need to do this because it's important, particularly when you're playing chords. You need to know where the root notes of those chords are for the given voicing that's involved. It could be anywhere on the 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, or 1st string, and you need to know that. All right? Trust me, it does get easier, and you will get this. Just stick with it. It's guaranteed to get in your head, and it will never leave, particularly if you keep yourself practicing and aware of where all notes are. All right? So, do this for a few minutes. You know, go down once, do it a second time, reinforce it. Then when you're ready to continue, press play. All right, there you have it, lesson 4. Now, be sure that you really pay attention to everything you've been working on in this lesson. This is a critical milestone lesson because it establishes some stuff that you're going to need moving forward, particularly the steady state principle idea. This is critical to playing rhythms well and in time. And you'll appreciate this when you start playing with other people and understanding how rhythms are supposed to be played. Okay? So, there you have it. Thank you so much for letting me be your teacher. I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.